Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. We're here today with Carlos Bacelis, Director of Analytics for Walmart. Today's session is entitled Meeting LP Demand Through Technology, was given here actually at the NRF. The session description itself. As the retail shopping experience becomes more fluid with an ever-increasing range of options and channels, asset protection, loss prevention professionals must grapple with new demands and balance exposure to shrink. While the mechanics of loss, profit, and theft may have not appreciably changed, the transactional technology options available to customers, everything from conventional manned lanes to online selections to home delivery certainly have. In this session, Carlos Bacelis, the Walmart director, has discussed how they're using new technologies designed to limit the retail giant's exposure while preserving the shopping experience. Carlos, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Carlos, obviously, customer touch points and exposures have just skyrocketed, while at the same time, the customer experience has never been so important, especially with the online option, which leads us to this session here that you gave at the NRF Protect. Can you give us an overview of your session here and kind of walk us through it?
Sure, absolutely, I'd be happy to. Really what we wanted to get to here was how we at Walmart leverage technology and AP to kind of make us better in the ways we work. At Walmart, we focus on, at least our AP team does, on what we call our 3D strategy, which is a strategy of direct, deter, and detect. And we say that in that particular order for a very good reason, right? The first thing we want to do is direct our teams on how they work. What work should they be doing? They become the process experts, and they teach and coach everyone around the store, including the store managers, on how to properly execute processes. We know that we're never going to catch our way and apprehend our way to better shrink results. We've seen over the last several years that as we've increased shoplifting apprehensions, our shrink results have not followed suit. So the second phase of our 3D strategy is to deter. Deter theft at every means possible. We have a philosophy of deterrence before detection. So when it comes to technologies around merchandise protection, benefit denial, scan avoidance, missed merchandise scans, we've invested very heavily to make sure that from a technology perspective, whether it's at the self-checks, manned registers, or anywhere else throughout the store, we're able to maximize our opportunity to deter the bad guys. We don't want to inhibit any type of customer experience, but we do want to be very resolute in selling more and losing less. And then our detection strategy, right? So at the end of the day, AP, LP is always going to be about identifying the bad guy and getting them out of our environment. So we have made investments to ensure our teams are properly invested, whether it be at the door, where we made a significant investment this last year. It was probably in the news.
With the customer host
position.
Right.
We've actually 9,000 associates. We've actually expanded our overall AP presence by about 40% in many cases.
Now this customer host position, which I've heard a lot of people kind of imply that it's the same old monitor at the front door, is completely different, much more elevated. You know, and when I've heard this conversation, it's like I've had to defend it and say, no, this is a different level job. So could you just talk a little bit about the customer host job?
Yeah, and I appreciate you defending us there. And the customer host job is very much different than our typical people greeter role. While they are still there to ensure our customers have the best experience possible, and they're still there to greet and thank every one of our customers for shopping at Walmart each day, they're also trained very heavily in asset protection, safety and security to ensure our doors are protected from any types of risks. They're also checking receipts on unbagged merchandise, and they're also serving as the first response team for our asset protection teams. They identify alert signals, they handle express refunds, and they are a part of the asset protection team, where maybe the people greeter role in the past was not.
So they're real LP executives or
really
associates that are certified, so to speak loosely, and go through some rather extensive training that raises the level of their deliverables.
Correct.
Which helps those detect, deter, in prevent type process, the 3D approach.
Yeah, again, we know the better we can harden our target around malicious theft and malicious losses, the better our results are going to be. We can focus then our efforts on process execution and consistency in our execution levels. So the second piece we talked about in our presentation yesterday was around our ways of working. And what we term our ways of working is how we do everything we do for AP and why we do it. So we've been very prescriptive in the things we ask our AP managers to do, the times they do it, when they do it, and why they're doing it. It's very important that the teams understand the why. Recently, we introduced what we call our Shrink Operations Center, which is a large poster at the front, at the associate entrance of every store. We're trying to make AP less of an esoteric type of operation in the store to where it's open and open for everyone to see what we're doing. So all of the procedures, all of the policies we're asking people to execute each day, we've put it on a large poster in front of the store. Again, people don't think of technology as being posters and pieces of paper, but sometimes making sure the ecosystem works and ensuring the entire store population understands what we're trying to do is just as important as cool gadgets and doodads, right? So our ways of working help reinforce to every associate in the store what should they be doing as leaders within their store, department managers, store associates, cashiers, and also what is the AP team checking when they do their regular audits each week. Our market managers and our field teams then go through and verify the different tasks are completed each week. Store manager is held responsible along with the AP manager to ensure that execution is consistent and well done. And then the third piece of our ecosystem is really where we start getting into our technology and our devices. My team and the rest of the teams here at Walmart have really invested a lot in making sure that technology makes it easier to get things right than wrong. Right? One of our mottos is leverage technology in a way that makes it easier to get it right than wrong. We're trying to take a lot of that knowledge that has been ingrained in a lot of our associates, a lot of our tenured associates, and turn it into something that we can ingrain into the process itself. So when we talk about training, when we talk about dashboards, when we talk about technology, we're trying to understand what are the right form factors. What we know now, things like the iPhone or an Android phone are a much better form factor for doing things like surveys and audits and compliance checks, whereas things like an iPad or a tablet are a lot better for digesting and consuming data like dashboards, visualizations, and information. We know that training can occur pretty much anywhere in the store, and we want to give people an avenue to embrace it wherever they might be. So if they're on their phone in the store, they can watch a quick 30-second video, or if they're on their tablet while working through reports and they have a question, they can click the help button and watch either a quick demo or get information they need to understand their ways of working. And then the last piece we talked about and we touched on was Brand, who is our director of surge team operations. And what he does is he makes sure that that entire life cycle is still working. He ensures that consistent execution happens every day. So him and his team will go out throughout the country in various markets and say, is the strategy and the ideas we've implemented here at the home office, are they being embraced by the stores? Are they being executed as we intended? And when they're not, which unfortunately happens often, right? How do we reiterate that? How do we iterate that program to make it right? How do we make it easier? How do we simplify it? How do we eliminate it if it wasn't working to begin with? And then how do we go back into that cycle and say, okay, we tried, didn't work. We've made some tweaks, we're going to try it again. And we have that cycle to be able to ensure that what the stores are telling us, what we're hearing from our leadership teams, is also what we're seeing actually happening in the stores by an impartial third party. So that's kind of how that cycle works there. So that technology piece is not a strategy unto itself. It's part of a broader strategy and part of our ways of working on how we improve everything we do within AP for Walmart.
Where do you see it going? I mean, where do you see the technology's impact on LP? And that may be more of a 35,000-foot level question I'm throwing at you unprepared, but where do you see it going and its impact on not just the executives, but the hourly folks as well?
I think that's kind of where I see the largest, I probably get the most excited. So when we get to the store level associates and the hourly teams, that's really where we can start making a difference. So when you start thinking about wearables like your Apple Watch or your Pebble Watch, and you start thinking about devices we can integrate into our store fixtures, right? A lot of times the technology isn't incredibly expensive, it just requires a little bit of change in thinking. So a wearable where you may not be able to digest a lot of information on the phone, we can easily send alerts to our associates, and we're dabbling in that within our broader central ops organization. How do we create time-based or activity-based alerts to notify our associates, hey, you're in a high shrink area, you're near a high shrink product, have you checked your outs? Have you scanned your outs? If we're going through and identifying a large amount of picks or outs within a shelf, how do we take that and create a usable alert for our AP teams? Is it something we can quickly alert them near real time on their phone or on their watch? Or is it something that really should be a vehicle for them to be digesting later via a tablet or a laptop? So while I don't see huge changes in how we look or analyze data, I think we have a lot of data to work with and we have a lot of data to parse through. The ways we can notify and empower our teams begins to get very exciting, whether we can centralize a lot of the work we do with remote monitoring, whether we can quickly send priority alerts to people's phones and watches, how we can reorganize our structures better to attack our high shrink areas, our high shrink products, really gets a whole lot of fun. And that's really where we've been testing a lot of new technologies.
All the while integrating the customer experience necessity throughout all of this material.
That is always top of mind for us.
Yeah. The one thing, if we may back up to the customer host position, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about around the country about the police departments being pressured with the amount of responses to Walmart stores, to all the retail stores, you know, handling the shoplifters, the petty offenders and such. And I recently saw an article where one of the cities had been actually accredited the customer host position to reducing police calls. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll speak to that, and I really do wish Mike Lamb, our VP, was here to kind of expand on it a lot more. But what I can say is the customer host role is really there to help us have better situational awareness. And we understand that anytime we have a better awareness of who's entering our store, what type of heavy traffic we have in our peak hours, I mean, we have someone there dedicated to observing everything that goes on at those front entrances. We have an ability to better prepare ourselves for anything that might be, any situations that might arise. We have someone there who's a first responder who can quickly call the police if anything should be needed or if a threat should arise. We also have someone who can notify our AP teams within the store and develop a solution before any police involvement becomes necessary.
So it's also a safety factor.
It's very much a safety factor.
Right, which is a great investment for the customers and the employees.
Yeah, at Walmart we're investing heavily in both security and safeness to ensure both our customers and our associates' safety is paramount.
Right, which is incredible, and obviously, you know, the industry commends Walmart and your team on doing just that.
Thank you.
Carlos, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching, and until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.